Now, in a remarkable exchange, the presidency has responded to former President Olusegun Obasanjo's critique of Nigeria's democracy. The special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, fired back at Obasanjo, attributing the current state of the nation's democracy to decisions made during Obasanjo's leadership. The response comes after Obasanjo's critical comments during a high-level consultation on rethinking Western liberal democracy in Africa. Obasanjo suggested that the Western democracy model had not delivered good governance and development in Africa, proposing a re-examination and moderation of democracy tailored to Africa's unique needs. The presidency, however, criticized Obasanjo for poorly implementing the presidential system, highlighting flaws in the copied model. Onanuga argued that if Obasanjo truly believes in his current views, he should advocate for a return to the parliamentary system. Now, to discuss the critique of Western democracy attributed to the former President Olusegun Obasanjo, we have Kachi Onanuga, that's Kachi Onanuga, to speak to us on the evolution of Nigeria's political landscape, and he is also a political analyst. Good morning, Kachi, and thank you so much for joining me on the news this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, Kachi, former President Obasanjo, in his critique against the Western liberal democracy, argued that African countries have no business operating a system of government without having a role in its definition and also its design. Are you also of the same school of thought? Do you agree with this view?
Yes, I agree with President Obasanjo because it's now become very evident that Africans, due to insincerity and probably the fact that they believe all is required of them is to be cooperative with some foreign neo-colonial friends, and they do not care about what the people say. They have now resorted different strategies, like in Nigeria. The protocols that see politicians to now capture the judiciary, as it is in Nigeria, as it is presently being done, using the judiciary to now weaponize the judiciary against the democracy, against the Constitution. Those are the reasons why people like Obasanjo are getting very angry. But I think we have to find ways. I believe what this is issues of trust. Nigeria certainly is unlucky. It has now run into the hands of people who are not actually that very, very palatable to democracy. And I think I like to put it at the doorsteps of the Nigerians who accepted too much of the road that Buhari meted to the country. I agree to Mr. Ribadu's words that Buhari so destroyed the democracy that he bankroled the country. But then we need to ask ourselves, how did we come to this? Buhari could never have done this alone. I believe people like Bola Tinubu, who stood by as party leader and didn't do anything, are part of it. But we must also blame ourselves, the Nigerians, who tolerated a lot of these very, very dishonest people that have now seemed to have captured our country and are no more allowing the democracy any breathing space. If you ask me, I told somebody yesterday that I also, on the other scale, I do not complain too much of what I've seen, even though I know it spells doom for the democracy, since what they have been doing is destroying the institutions, the ones that Buhari started. And we should not just put the blame at Tinubu's feet. No, Buhari it was that destroyed the institutions of our state to the extent that Mr. Ribadu says that Buhari destroyed Nigeria to the point of bankrupted Nigeria in all spheres of calculations. And I believe that we must take very seriously. It is a crying time for country. It is sober time for Nigerians, and we must not now be looking at issues of blame, but admit, as Obasanjo have admitted, that our attempt at democracy seems to have come to naught currently due to the activities of protagonists of state capture, who seem to have now captured our judiciary and now have weaponized the judiciary against the democracy and against our constitution.
Well, you're actually blaming Nigerians for tolerating the roles that some of our leaders actually played in this, and also, blaming the former President Buhari for also his role that he has played. A lot of people and also the presidency have actually blamed former President Obasanjo himself, saying he should have led by example. And, they responded to the former president also and said that he should have advocated a return to parliamentary system of government if he truly believed in his own view. Now, do you think that this particular thing, they actually said that, talking about, a return to parliamentary system of government is a potential solution to the challenges being faced in our democracy today?
As you look at the crisis in Nigeria, I don't think it's an issue of return to parliamentary democracy or the mode of democracy that we should be talking about. But it's in maintaining the institutions. As we are speaking right now, the politicians of the APC have devised a strategy that allowed them to capture the judiciary. The judiciary being weaponized against the constitution, that can also be done if you get into parliamentary democracy. For the judiciary now to become a weapon against the constitution and against the rule of law, we will run into that if we're not sincere, even if we now subscribe to parliamentary system. So what we need to do is to find ways to allow those institutions of state to become autonomous. You can imagine Minister Wike telling judiciary that he wants to build for them a new facility in Abuja. No. Democracy is a continuous process. By now, we should have gotten to the point of allowing true autonomy for the judiciary, true autonomy for the local government system, true autonomy and honest devolution of powers to the federating units. But instead of us progressing, President Buhari had the mindset of trying to appropriate the country for his own tribal elements, which we saw him now driving nepotism into a way that seemed to allow him to capture a lot of the institutions of state. And then, as Mr. Tinubu came, we simply saw openly what we have been hearing from Senator Bukachawa, that people of the APC were successful in capturing the judiciary. So we have now seen a state where the judiciary is now being weaponized against the democracy. And that's what you're seeing President Obasanjo speaking up as he's doing. I commend him for speaking up. I don't think it's an issue of recommending a return to parliamentary. No. All those are possible if we find it in our heart to be honest to purpose. What we now have are a band of criminals suddenly now capturing our democracy. And that's why I think President Obasanjo should find...
All right, Mr. Kachi, if you can hear me, just still on, your chain of thought, what implications does a system of government transitioning from representing all the people to being represented by a few individuals have on the majority of the people?
Well, the processes of that production of representatives is where it is. There's nothing wrong about that system. It is the process. And if the process is now undermined by rogue elements who now capture the judiciary and say no matter what they do, when you want to complain, they say go to court. When you go to court, you will now see judges parroting words as if they were written by those who caused the offense. I don't think it is impossible. No. We're not going to run away from it. No. We will also not start saying the military is better. The military is not better. We have simply hit a brick along the road. And I don't think complaining to kill the system is the right thing to do. No, it is a normal human situation that we have reached where we are right now. What we need to do is to sit down, tell ourselves the truth. We have a problem. How do we solve it? Of course, it is possible we can resolve this crisis. It is the desperation from President Buhari that forced him to now undermine our democracy. I think, yes, you can say President Tinubu is a beneficiary of stolen property, but President Tinubu did not start it. This crisis of us doing a reverse to the democracy started from President Buhari. So we simply need to holistically look at it and agree that we are currently challenged and find ways to resolve this crisis. It is nothing knocking democracy. Democracy works. It's just that we are unlucky to have run into the hands of a man as vile as President Buhari, whom Mr. Ribadu says, so destroyed the country, he bankrupted the country. And we need to calm ourselves down and don't allow emotions to allow us to actually jump over the edge. No, it's not the best thing to do. Now we have a problem. We admit it's a problem. Everybody admits it's a problem. Even Mr. Onanuga, who was replying to President Obasanjo, agrees that's a problem. But he says that Obasanjo should have suggested it, going to parliamentary. It's not so. Even in parliamentary, it is possible that crooked politicians can capture the judiciary and then set the judiciary against the constitution and against the democracy. We need to look at ourselves. Maybe we should start by devolving powers. A devolution of power to the federation unit or over concentration of power just at the center was what allowed Buhari to do what he did. And now we're interpreting it as a destruction of our country and a bankrupting of the entire nation. So I believe this can be resolved. I do not think we have reached to the end of the tunnel. No, we've only just noticed our problems along the way. Don't forget, the democracy is only just 24 years old. So we don't need to panic. We should continue to see a crisis and we find ways to add our voice and find strategies to fix it. I don't see any impossibility in this game. I am still very, very optimistic about our future.
All right, thank you so much, Kachi, for joining me this morning to share your thoughts on this issue.
Thank you for having me.